Hi, Matt.
How's it going?
It's going. So I'm with Matt Schalsey, CEO and co-founder of Perfect Hire. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, good.
So the little research I've done, Perfect Hire uses AI to help companies hire better. What was the big idea in the start to Perfect Hire? What made you start this business?
Yeah, great question. It really stems back from my years in enablement, but previously from my last company where we had a hire that was supposed to come onto my team basically slip through the cracks. We had a candidate that answered all the questions right, schmoozed a lot of people over, and what I ended up finding out was we were not asking the right questions to be able to have those type of interviews. And so while we are going through this, right, we were trying to build a playbook of interview questions to be able to ask these candidates as they came through. Well, what I noticed was we were getting the same answers for every single question, regardless of how we spun it. So you could ask, what color is the sky? Well, it's blue. Is the sky blue? Is it turquoise? Whatever. Like we were getting the same version, just a different answer. And so for me, what we ended up doing was just creating an AI question builder basically for interviews that would allow these hiring teams to have pre-populated questions based off of the candidate's resume and cross-reference those into the candidate or into the company's values as well as the job description. That way you could get true, tangible examples from specific jobs. Because of course, in any interview, right, you always want to look your best. So I would always say the same story every single time at every single interview. And that's what I was noticing with other candidates at the same time. And as we quickly got that done, right, we slowly were peeling back some of the layers. Like that was just such a surface level problem. There are so many other problems that we've noticed within the recruiting functionality where, feedback loops are being mismanaged or we're not closing those candidates that might be a possibility for us. We're not closing them at the right time, or we're losing their interest and all of that. So how do we continue to evolve the entire process through recruiting? And that's where we realized that AI and automation would be able to play a very, very strong part in that to continue to drive recruiters' efficiency up tenfold.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean AI is making such a big splash in all
Of course.
the business today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, can you tell us how Perfect Hire is really changing the game when it comes to finding and hiring great people?
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, right, AI is not new to recruiting by any means. We've been using it for years to, scrape resumes. And if you don't have the keywords, hey, guess what? You're out. That is old school AI for recruiting. Nowadays, what you're getting is a lot of people that are having these AI recruiting bots where you just go onto like a video like this and you basically just give out the answers and that's all it is. Well, it takes the bias out of all of recruiting, right? And I think recruiting, just like dating, has to have that gut intuitional instinct. And AI does not allow you to do that. So for us, what it is doing is it's really transforming not necessarily how we recruit, but enabling us to recruit better and faster. So optimizing the mundane tasks that a recruiter has to do, optimizing all of the outreach that has to be done in order to keep a candidate interested in the pipeline, optimizing those feedback loops so that way they're not disconnected and mismanaged or even just completely forgotten about. So we're not taking AI and automations to a deliverable where it's how do we use AI to do the interviews, but how do we use it to enable the recruiter to do their jobs more effectively? And so, all in all, right, if we're giving more time back to the recruiter, that gives more time back to find the better candidate.
Right. Can you tell me how does your platform make the initial experience better?
Yeah, so just the initial experience. So, one of the key things that we've heard in a lot of our user research so far is a clean, UI friendly platform where you just go in, you know exactly what you need to do, you know exactly where you need to go, you know exactly what tasks need to be completed. My years in sales, I've dealt with a lot of different platforms that have made my job as a seller so much easier to be able to operate and know exactly where I'm at. As I would always train my sellers, right? It's like you have your own executive assistant and your platform in front of you, and you know exactly what you need to do next. Recruiters don't have that. And so that's what we were building out is basically this whole functionality of a platform that's easy to use. It's clean, it's crisp, it's fresh, but it's more along the lines of keeping those recruiters on task with the right things at the right time to really engage with the right prospects. Clean, easy to use, and just intuitive. There's no hidden task. We've limited the amount of clicks to do anything. And I think that itself is probably more thought provoking into this new age of recruiting, because less is more, right? Less clicks means more volume. Yeah.
Right. Definitely streamlines the process, opens the door to a lot more opportunity.
100%.
So, as a sales guy, is there a favorite story or a big win that you've experienced since you've started Perfect Hire that you'd like to?
Yeah, a big win, right? So we recently, I'm going to celebrate two of them. Our first one was getting our first design partner on board. We had a healthcare system here in Nebraska that decided to jump on board with us, build this platform out, basically just help build this thing as we were doing it. We would do all the dev work. They would tell us what they're missing and what they needed, and we would just put it into the system and we'd build this in together for a grandiose vision. That was our first win, right? We had somebody that bought it, that truly recognized the pain point of why and what we were doing, to come on this journey with us to really build out this other product. The other quick win that I've had, or that we had, was we've actually combined forces with another company that strongholds our entire development process and really lets us reimagine the way people ops are actually formulating around the world. So we've combined forces with a Conduit, which is another company that's out there making scheduling so much better. And so with our two platforms together, we are really trying to reinvent that pre and post hire experiences on the people ops team, making sure that candidates can go from prospect to promotion and be managed in a way where they are continuously being evaluated, continuously being looked, and continuously being optimized within the workspace without having issues of communication, connectivity, or any type of downfall within the organization.
Excellent. Looking ahead,
Yeah.
what are the things that excite you about the future, and how do you see Perfect Hire continuing to lead the way?
Yeah. So, sorry, what was that last part?
Do you see Perfect Hire maybe taking a different approach, staying on the same path, integrating more AI into what you do? Where do you see the future of hiring, and where do you see Perfect Hire in that?
Yeah. So, I think anything with AI, right? I asked my head of product, give me a 1, 3, 5 year plan of our products. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you, probably 3 and 5 will never happen. But it's the vision, right? It's the vision of where we are going to go, how we're going to be able to do it. I think with AI, we are at a pivotal cusp that we do not know which way the pendulum is going to swing. Is it going to completely take over everything, or are we going to continue to operate as it basically being an assistant? And so with Perfect Hire, right, I think we're in the prime position right now where we can remain agile enough to make a pivot to transform the way that hiring is going to be done in the future. I know OpenAI just announced that they're going to compete with LinkedIn in recruiting. What does that look like for us? We have no idea. But I think the one thing that I would say with a lot of people ops and human resources and talent is we're not going to leave it up to machines solely to basically recruit and hire these individuals. It has to have some sort of human element. And every recruiter that I've talked to does not trust AI enough to make every decision for them. And nor should we, regardless of what your occupation is. You should never trust AI 100%.
No,
There's flaws everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I think whatever you think, whatever I think, 5, 10 years from now, where AI is going to be, we're probably going to be wrong, right?
100%.
I think the perfect formation that we could hope for is that symbiotic relationship between AI and a human, right?
Yeah.
Where we're working together to grow and create whatever experience we're trying to create.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just it. And I think that's kind of the vision of with Perfect Hire, right? Is how do we leverage the equivalency and the optimization that AI can bring to our lives? And how do we basically do that and basically just elevate what we were doing? I look back at the horrible, horrible movie of Limitless with Bradley Cooper way back when. Horrible movie. If you haven't seen it, you don't need to. Anyways, he finds this pill and it unlocks like an additional portion of his brain, and everything is endless. And I think that is where we're at right now, right? Like, do we take the AI pill to unlock where we're at and how we're going about things? Or do we continue to stay in the stagnant ways of our same constrained motion that feels comfortable for us to be able to operate that way. And I think there's that balance and that shift of education and enablement that has to go into that to allow people to feel comfortable with AI to move that way. And I think that's where sets up Retire in that perfect position, is we are in that mindset to understand that we do have to educate and enable, but we also have to make sure that we can optimize and integrate AI in a more efficient space to not take over the human job, but to elevate it.
Right. Right. There's still, you were correct. AI has been around a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but we're in that. I viewed COVID as the catalyst for the biggest technological boom this country's maybe
100%.
seen in my lifetime. It's much bigger than the dot-com impact was.
Oh, yeah.
And we're in the infancy of it. And I just think it scares a lot of people. And so, the more we can talk about it, the reality is, if you don't adopt it, you're going to be left behind, right?
Exactly.
I use this example a lot. Is I saw my parents as they grew older basically become obsolete, right? They had ATM machines, cell phones, computer, right? It almost kind of rendered them useless in effect. AI is going to fast track that. It's going to multiply it by 100 times.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important for everyone to at least understand it. You don't have to use it, but understand it and don't be afraid of it, because it's here and it's here to stay.
Right. And I would say that for everybody that's leery of AI, continue to be leery of AI. That's okay. That's all right. But know that if you're going to use it, you have to have the human element before. And I think that's what a lot of people worry, is that they don't have any control of what's going to happen going forward. Mm-hmm. You need to set those parameters for yourself to be able to optimize how you're going to leverage AI into a more effective space as well.
Right. Right. That's so true. So Perfect Hire as a company.
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing extremely well right now?
Extremely well. I think the big thing is recruiting has been one of those functions that have been around for years, right? Hasn't seen much innovation, hasn't seen much of a tech budget increase, hasn't seen the ability to really evolve outside of the four walls of a TA space. I think what we're doing is we truly are listening and having those therapy sessions with recruiters of what is working and what isn't. What would you like to see? What do you absolutely hate about your role? What could we try to automate? What could we do for XYZ? And really take those findings and those learnings and build this for the people. Because, as a seller and somebody who's done a lot of hiring, like, I know some of these pain points that they're speaking about because I witnessed them as a hiring manager. One of my other co-founders is a recruiter, and he has even said point blank, like, if I had this while I was doing my tenure in my jobs, like, could you imagine how much more efficient that I would be right now? So I think there's that. I think the other part of it that we are going to be leveraging in the way that we're going to be winning is we're not treating recruiting as just the simple TA, human resource, back office function, right? We're viewing it as an ultimate revenue generating function. Because in the end, right, like, you're finding the best talent at the best price to make sure you guys can optimize and hit your target goals for a company. And I think that's where this mindset of recruiting as sales is coming in so strong for us, is because we want to optimize every recruiting team to value themselves as almost a seller, because you're doing some qualification, you're doing some discovery, you're going ahead through negotiations and tracking your deals with your candidate pipeline. And you're also working with multi-stakeholders, whether that be, people on the interview panel or, reference checks or whatever it might be. You're finding those ways to be able to close a deal. And a lot of recruiters are now being measured that way as sellers to be able to close these roles in a short amount of time. And we want to be able to enable those recruiters for that type of mindset. And so that's where I think we have the leg up to be able to drive this a lot forward, is because we're thinking about their end results in mind, not just the process that they have to get from step A to step B, but what is the end all be all for every single recruiter day in and day out.
Right. So in the same context as a firm, what aren't you guys doing well?
What are we not doing well? From a selling perspective, right? Like, I think we've got a lot of, digging and still, like, identifying where our niche is going to be. Recruiting could be so agnostic, and it could be so niche as well. Whatever way you want to look at, opposite ends of the spectrum there, I think that's where we're trying to find our footing, right? Where and how do we compete We have companies such as like Greenhouse and, Indeed and all of them that are using these platforms that have been around for years. And then you've got companies like Ashby and HireVue that are still fairly new, but yet people recognize them. So competing in a very overcrowded market, you're trying to identify where our footing is going to be. And I think we're finally landing where we should be, which is in the retail, hospitality, healthcare, and food and bev area. Those that are really focused on some of the frontline workers in these industries, people that are shift based, making sure that we can identify where and how we can fill those roles at a very effective, fast paced rate without breaking the bank as well too. So I think that's kind of where our weakness is as of right now. But I think every startup goes into that mindset of like, let's just throw the biggest net into the ocean and see what we capture instead of targeting, focusing, and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, no, I get that. Sometimes that net is needed in the beginning, right?
Of course.
Yeah, because it can maybe identify a path that you should explore that you never thought of, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. At the end of the day, I think the more narrow, defined niche you can create for yourself, the better off you're going to be.
Because absolutely,
you're going to play as a leader in that space. You're not competing against 50,000 other people.
Yep.
So that's great. I mean, made a lot of really good points. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah. I mean, right now we're actively looking for design partners, people that want to come along this journey with us and really change the face of recruiting and people ops. So if you guys are in that space that I just referenced, retail, food, bev, everything else like that, let us know. We would love to give you guys that journey or take you on that journey with us. Because we're in the startup phase, you have direct access to all of us founders and the heads of engineering to make and invoke these changes and get roadmap features basically added on almost instantly. So, we're on this journey and we invite everybody and anybody that wants to join us along with it.
That's awesome. What a great conversation, Matt. I'm sure listeners to my podcast are gonna love to hear your insights, and I look forward to sharing the content with you.
I love it.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming on. Great data.
It's gonna love it. Thank you.